we had a bit of a trial run, and I think it went pretty well the first time, but let's do it even better. So, day and life of a biokinetics student, intern, and bio, and just in general. So, today's conversation is simply about just getting you guys' perspectives on certain things, on your career so far, and the studying, and all the things that we've learned, and the things that you wish you knew. And so to start off very simply, Matabo, how has studying been for you up to now? How has that experience been? Has it been easy? Has it been difficult? Has it exceeded your expectations? Where are you at right now?
Reflecting back, it was not easy, definitely not. It was very tough, yet fulfilling. Reflecting back from all the way to first year till now, a lot has happened, so much content, but coming into the space and seeing everything play out and seeing it firsthand has been very fulfilling. And yeah, I'd say it was very tough, but very fulfilling. I don't think I'd have it any other way. The process has been far, I don't know how to express it, but it was tough. It's a lot. It tests you more. It's not just about learning the coursework, but it comes with its own challenges that it go beyond just academics. So the journey, all in all, from all aspects, has been tough yet very fulfilling. I think I'd say tough and fulfilling.
Perfect. And Latabo, when you started studying or choosing this career, I'm sure you had a certain idea as to what you're getting yourself into. Now that you've gone through your studies, I would imagine there's a different perspective. So I would love for you to share what your perspective was before studying biokinetics, and now that you're in your fourth year, how has your perspective changed in terms of the course itself and and just how you perceive biokinetics now. So maybe the better question is, what is your perception before you studied biokinetics, and what is your perception now in your fourth and final year of biokinetics?
Okay, so when I applied, came to varsity and all of that, it was a thing of, this is just like a stepping stone to get somewhere else. But then as I progressed through this degree with all its difficulties and everything, and all its difficulties, I learned to appreciate that this is actually probably where I am supposed to be, because I enjoy helping people, and what I've realized now is that bio isn't just initially what I thought, limited to sports. It's more than that. It's changing. It's about making life better, and I mean that whole, in every single aspect, people's well-beings, whether it be, because we all know exercise is essential for living, basically. That's how I look at it. So my perspective has changed a lot. This isn't just, you have a sports injury, come, let's help you. This is we're helping you live better, basically. That's
amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that was my experience as well. I thought that I'm just going to help someone who has knee pain, and that's where it ends. But the more you realize, by offering them the ability to run again, to exercise again, to express themselves again, are you actually helping them to a larger degree than what we would previously anticipate. So I love that. Charlene, you've done it. You've gone through the 4-year degree, or the 4 years of studying. You're now doing your internship. And what would you say, from studying to working, what's been the biggest mind shift for you that you had to take on through this whole process?
Sure. The biggest one In varsity, we were taught to work with the muscular system and the skeletal system. And that is all I knew before I came to work here. And then you showed me how to work with the central nervous system. And still, it's what been like 4 months. I still fall into going back to the muscular system, and then have to remind myself you can work with the central nervous system. So that has been the biggest change for me, and I suppose a learning curve, because I keep having to remind myself, go back to the nervous system first, and then we can play around with the muscular system. Yeah.
Perfect. And let's talk a bit more about that. So has it been easy to transition towards that sort of thinking, and have you seen the benefit of making that transition to viewing it in a different way?
Yeah. So the biggest benefit is that it makes the job so much easier. Like, so much easier. In varsity, like last year specifically, when I was still shadowing with other practices and stuff, they worked with the muscular system from the start, which isn't wrong. It's just, in my opinion, it just takes much longer to get the end results. So I forgot the question.
The question was, have you seen, has there been a benefit to making that transition?
Yeah, so the benefit would be that it's easier to do your job, and also there's a lot less anxiety for me when I see a client, especially especially in the first session, because I don't have to rattle my brain for an answer of what's wrong with their muscular system. I first just work on the central nervous system, and then I can transition into the muscular system, which makes it easier. And what's nice about that is I'm the type of person that likes to see results quickly. So when you work with the central nervous system, you see the results very quickly, like in the first session. That's how quick it is. And in the previous years, what I've seen is that in the first consult, you do your posture analysis, you do all of your muscular tests, the strength tests, the special tests, all of that, and then they come back and then you give them exercises and then you start working on them, which doesn't show immediate results. It takes a while, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I work with the central nervous system, because I can see that change immediately, I know that I'm doing the right thing, and then I just am a bit more at ease and the anxiety is not there. So, yeah. Awesome,
absolutely. I mean, we sort of spoke about it previously, how when you were studying, you just felt so overwhelmed and anxious, like flip, there's so much to do, it's so complicated.
Yeah.
And now you have a sense of it's actually not as complicated as what it needs to be. Not that it's wrong, but there is a different way to do things. And it just, in what you're saying is, it just seems a lot more simpler, and you can understand it a lot better, and you can grasp it a lot better. And therefore you don't have as much anxiety, because you have a grasp of it all for the most part.
Yeah, you grasp it quicker as well. When I came here, I thought to myself, I was always told that, you have to just observe for a few months and then you can start doing more hands-on things. And I thought, I'd have to watch you for way longer than I have before I could start working with patients. But because you do it the way you do it, like you said, it's so much quicker to grasp, and it's very quick to learn as well, which is quite nice.
Amazing. Alrighty, Matabo, you've now studied, you're in your 4th year. What has been a highlight for you in your years of studying up to date, what's been the thing, a lesson, something that you've received, something that you've gained just through your studying experience up to date?
Confidence. Yeah, comparing my confidence now to back in first year, because coming to university, first day I'm like, yo, there's a lot going on here. So also going through that process, it's just a lot, all in all. And I was like, am I really doing this? So my confidence was really low. I was dealing with a lot of imposter, because I then realized how huge what I'm getting myself is, what I'm getting myself into is. So I was then questioning myself, you'll be dealing with people's livelihood, people's well-being. Are you ready for that? Are you enough for that? Is that what you think you can do? So that was messing with my head a bit, affected my confidence levels. So that was back in first year. So as I was studying and getting into it, my confidence also went up. Being in my fourth year now, I'd say my confidence is way better. And yeah, so I think from first year till now, I'd say that was something that I struggled a lot with.
Yeah.
That was the highlight, I think, of my studying career, because I don't want to get into the content of the course, because that's what we need to know. I'm just speaking about something that I think applies to me in my academic career, but will also apply to me when I get into the clinical world, because you need your confidence to be there, so that what you believe in what you're doing, so that you believe, okay, I'm doing this because I believe it's going to work. That really just speaks back to your confidence. So I think that has been the highlight, working on my confidence and getting to where I am now.
And what would you say helped you to get to that point of confidence? What did you have to do to get to that?
Okay, so the first thing, you need to see the problem and pick it up. That's the first part. Admit that, okay, I'm struggling here. That's the first part. Don't just sweep things under the carpet, because it's there, and you just putting it at the back of your mind is not you really dealing with it. So I think the first thing was for me to admit, and then after that, I looked at the things it affects in my life. So it affected so much, because if it's affecting my studies, I'm not going to be as productive. I'm not going to put the results. I might end up failing and being academically excluded. So it was more of, I put them in a hierarchy that from bottom to top, this is how much this thing affects you. It affects so much more in your life, in your academic career. So I picked up the problems, and second part was just seeking help, consulting. That helped a bit, and then not a bit, a lot. Yeah, that helped a lot. And then the third point was just me working on that, and which was majority of the process, just working on it. Because if you just consult and they tell you, okay, this is how, you also need to be in it and work. And then here I am now. So I think that's just been the process.
Amazing. Don't be afraid to face the problem. And if you need support to face the problem, whether it's consulting, seeing a psychologist, seeing a life coach, but having support to work towards the problem and actually solve the problem. And the minute you solve the problem, that's where confidence comes from.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Alrighty, Letabo. What has been the most difficult thing that you had to overcome in your studying career up to date? Maybe it's something that you're still struggling with, maybe it's something that you struggle with and you've overcome it, but what has been that thing for you up to date?
So, what I realized I currently still struggle with is making my academics a priority. I don't know. I don't know if it's just me wanting to be perfect, but I feel like I'm slacking somehow. Even though I've managed this far and still made it this far, I still feel like I can do more. And I don't know if that's like a good thing, because a lot of people do say this to me, that I am too much of a perfectionist. Like I want things to be a certain way. So like you said, maybe that's something I could also go and have looked at and be like, is this maybe holding me back somehow from actually, I don't know, maybe having like a more like wholesome approach to things, because yeah, but wanting things to be a certain way, you don't want to fail, so you kind of don't do things because you don't want to end up failing and not getting it the way you want it. So I think that's the one thing that I struggle with.
Yes, I mean, you touching on something that I think most of us, if not all of us to some degree, have, and that is the fear of failing. I'll do anything in my power not to fail, because I don't want to feel that pain of failing. I want to feel the pain of being rejected, the pain of not feeling enough. And so that feeling of not being enough, not feeling good enough, the shadow of that is I'm going to become a perfectionist. I want to make sure that I control everything, so nothing will deter me to becoming successful. And the unfortunate and sometimes fortunate thing is we cannot control all of those factors, and there will be times where you are going to fail, and Charlene, that'll be the next question for you, and how you dealt with it and how you had to overcome it. But we, as a bio, you're going to experience failure. You're going to disappoint yourself, and you maybe didn't do something the right way. That is guaranteed. But what's most important is being comfortable with not being enough in that moment, and you can only be comfortable with being okay to fail when you know that you have the resource to figure it out, when you know you have the resource to overcome. And so it's just a slight perspective change, but we are all there to some degree or form. So it's definitely something, and it's for all of us to work toward and to realize that, you know, failure is part of the process. If you're not failing, you're playing it safe. And if you're playing it safe, there is no growth there. And Charlene, now that you've worked in, you know, there's been a lot of emotion, I would imagine, you know, good times and maybe not so good times. But I want you to share a moment or an experience for you that maybe you did feel that, you know, things were not going the way that you'd have liked it to go, and maybe tell us about how you managed to overcome that.
Okay. Shucks. I just need to think for a bit.
Yeah, take your time. And so, yeah, just thinking of a moment where you did feel like you failed, but more importantly, how you managed to overcome that.
There's been so many. So many. I don't know which one to choose. Look, there's a lot of times where I felt super uncomfortable. And when I came here, I like my lists, you know. I set out what I want to do for the day, and that's what I do. And then I also set out exactly what I'm going to do with my clients. So for the boot camp, I have my programs that I make before they come. And those don't always go as planned, like yesterday. Yesterday, I made a program that was like, it used the arms quite a lot. And then my client came, she was like, no, my shoulder, I can barely move it, it's too sore. So I was like, let's make up a whole new program.
On the spot.
On the spot. And like, it doesn't just throw me off, but it irritates me like a lot. I get very irritated, which I'm just like learning to deal with. But I get irritated because I prepared for a scenario, and then it's like someone has just ripped up my plan and it chucked me in the deep end and was like, go swim, go have fun. And I'm like, oh my word. Yeah, it doesn't feel good, which is why it irritates me. But yeah, recently I've been planning a little bit less, so that I am in that situation where I haven't planned and I have to think on my feet, and like I said, being comfortable in that feeling of discomfort. Yeah, and like when I can't think on the spot and I kind of just stand there and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, then it's also just being okay with not knowing. And then after that, feeling okay to come to you and say, this is what happened, this is how I felt, like I didn't know what to do, you know, how could I improve it in the future? Yeah, and that does help quite a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's what you've touched on is something that you previously spoke about, which is imposter syndrome, when you have this expectation that I need to be something in this moment, and the feeling of I don't actually think I can deliver in this moment. And so you have two choices. Do you pretend like you have it all figured out, or do you actually accept that I don't know right now what I need to do, but then making a plan to figure it out? And the best thing you could do is, is to be authentic. And to be authentic means to own up to the things that you know and own up to the things that you don't know, and having the courage to say, listen, Susie, I don't know how to help you there, but let me speak to Kaylin, or let me figure it out. I'll get back to you next week, and I'll make sure that I at least have a lot more information on this particular thing that you have trouble with. And so having that authenticity, because your patients will know when you're faking it. We've had this discussion, do you fake it until you make it? And this whole thing about faking it until you make it only breeds or causes you to be more of an imposter than anything else, because you're never ever going to feel the authenticity of being present in the moment and just owning things. And so absolutely, it's so much more empowering to say I don't know, because when you admit that I don't know, immediately the feeling of I need to figure it out. If you don't mind, I'd love to share a story about you, because I think it's such a beautiful story. So we had a client with Joanna. So this is a beautiful story, I think, anyway. So Joanna, one of our clients, came in and she had severe neck pain, and I unfortunately wasn't here. And so Charlene had to see Joanna. And so you guys got a sense of the old Charlene, which was, I need to plan and I need to figure out. And Joanna had severe neck pain, and long story short, there's a particular technique that we do, and Charlene wasn't adverse in this particular technique, and that's not her fault. It's just we haven't had time yet to go over this technique, but she felt as if she couldn't give Joanna the fullness of what we're trying to do because she wasn't equipped enough in that moment. And that was very uncomfortable for her, because she said, and you said, that you felt like you failed her, like you didn't deliver that, and that was very uncomfortable for her. But guess what she did? She came to me, and I think the next day you came to me, and you said, listen, that technique, it's called primal release technique, you need to teach it to me.
Yeah, it's like right now.
Right now. And so this firstly speaks about how in the midst of chaos, in the midst of disorganization, and owning this door and not moving away from it but stepping into it, it will actually force you to self-organize, to self-regulate and say, listen, I don't want that feeling again, so I'm going to equip myself as much as I can so I could at least control as much as I can. And so, then you start to think, okay, but doesn't that sound like being a perfectionist, needing to control? And perfectionist is, I'm a fear of failing. That's the only difference is feeling, if you have a fear of failing, and as a result you're trying to be perfect, that's a negative energy. But when you want to control everything so you can be better, that's a completely different ball game altogether. So the perfectionist is the fear of failing, and post-traumatic growth syndrome is when you actually feel like whatever event that occurred would actually empower you and upskill yourself. And I think in that scenario, the fact that you came to me and said, listen, teach me this technique, just shows how it really forced you to want to equip and want to be better, which is amazing. Metabo, knowing what you know now, you've been through it all in terms of your studying career, what advice would you give yourself? Knowing what you know now to the younger Metabo.
You'll be okay. Yeah, I think that's one thing I'd assure my younger self, because before I got to where I am now, there was just a lot going on. With the chaos and everything going on, I would advise my younger self to know that after the storm, what's the saying? Something about a rainbow after the storm. Yeah, I would assure my younger self that yes, everything is going on. It seems a lot, but it's just the process. You'll be okay. I think that's the one advice really that encompasses everything. That I'll be okay. Yeah, in that you'll be okay. There's just a lot. Whatever you're going through at that moment, at the end, you'll be fine. And this applies to every perspective of my life. So that's one thing I would like to say to my younger self, knowing what I know now, because I am okay now. Things are working out, still in the process, but after looking back on the journey, even in things where I was like, maybe I should quit this. This is just too much.
So you've had that thought before?
Yeah, because I don't want to lie. When I was in my second year, I was like, hey, yeah, why am I doing this? There was a point where I was like, but I had to gather myself. And here I am now doing my final year.
I love that. Look, I think we've all had to some degree this thought of flip, why am I doing this? But it's exactly that. If you could just remind us that, it'll be okay. And when you have the willingness, just to do the work, you will be okay. That is a guarantee. We all have the capacity to figure it out. Letabo, what's been the highlight for you in your life right now, particularly with biokinetics and your studying career? What's been the most fulfilling moment for you up to date, would you say?
For me, I think it's how resilient I've been. Because, like she said, it's been rough. We've had it very tough. There were times where you're like, I can't do this. Why am I doing this? You actually just break down and you're like, then why am I still here? But then I kept my resilience and made it work. So I think that's just looking back, just how resilient I've been to everything that's been happening. And somehow I'm still here and still resilient. Yeah.
I mean, what a place to be, to recognize our own resilience and our tenacity and our resourcefulness. I think that is so, so crucial. Charlene, if there's any advice that you could give to the students here today. I mean, you've studied, you've now started working. Is there any words of wisdom, of nuggets of truth that you could offer them going forward?
From my own experience, I genuinely would say you guys need to be aware of burnout, especially in your honours year. Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone has their own, signs of burnout. So if you guys just learn for yourself what your signs are, and then when you see the signs, if you see one, you don't just go, "Oh, it's just one, we're fine." Even if you just see one sign of burnout, take a look at how you're doing life and change it and be kind to yourself as well. Burnout can do a lot of damage, especially if you just leave it be. Definitely burnout is a no-no.
I mean, we spoke about it in the previous conversation. Unfortunately, that wasn't recorded, but I do think it is something worth chatting about, burnout. So, what was firstly, how did you get to that point of burnout? How did that come to be? And when did you realize that you were burnt out?
So how it came to be is I prioritized academics over literally everything. I prioritized it over family and friends, and as well as my mental and physical health, which wasn't good. And I did 2.5 years like that. I was impressed. But I wish I didn't say. Oh my goodness, yeah. I remember I got to a point where I wasn't sleeping. So that was my first thing. I wasn't sleeping, so I gradually, pushed my bedtime from like 10. Then I was like, like 11 o'clock's not bad. Then I was like, 11:30 is not too bad. Then you get there and you're like, I'm awake. I'm stressed. I have things to do. I might as well just push it to like 1 o'clock. And then when you get to 1 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock's not too bad. So I used to push it to like 3 o'clock, get up at like 5:30 and do my day again. And I used to go in like bouts like this. So I could do that for like a week or two, and then I would crash, and then, I'd need my sleep, and then I'd go straight back into it. It's just like disrespect to my poor self. So the first thing was lack of sleep. Then with that came, I was very emotional, and I was very sensitive and just like overstimulated. So like small things used to irritate me so much. And then I would be moody with people, which is not nice for the people around you, especially towards your family who's there to help you. And they're supposed to be your support. You can't attack your support. It's again really dumb to do. There's different signs. For me, it was my sleep, my anxiety as well. My anxiety shot through the roof, and then being moody. I remember I was working on an assignment, and I went into the evening, and I think I pushed it. I was on like my 4th week of almost no sleep, and then like I can't explain the feeling, but something broke inside of me, and I still remember that day, like that feeling. I remember it clear as day. And it genuinely was the worst feeling ever. And so that happened just into my 3rd year. And that feeling pretty much stayed with me for more than a year.
Wow.
And it's an awful feeling. And like with that, it's just, you have this feeling of whatever it was, and then you just think, I have so much to do. I don't have time for that feeling. I don't have time to deal with, my tiredness, my stress. I have to get things done. So you just got to be kind to yourself and understanding, and actually just prioritize your mental health and your physical health, and then academics can come in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey. I mean, I don't have to add anything to that. I think you've said it all, which is awesome. Great. Matabo, if there is anything that you've now in your 4th year honors, and how has your perspective changed on what biokinetics is and the potential of biokinetics? What would you say that is for you?
So getting into the program, I'd say my thoughts on the program and what it does was so minimal, because it was literally this much, So coming into it and doing the actual thing really expanded how I see the program and its potential, because like I think Letabo said, exercise is medicine, and it does so much more than what is being put out there, or what people know, So, for example, that is one point where we can emphasize education, So I think that's one of the points that I also learned, because I realized as I studied, I'm like, damn, this thing actually does so much more than just to move your body. Mentally, emotionally, physically, it's more than just physical. It does so much, So that's the educational side of it. And then, what was the question again?
What is it that your perspective when you started versus what it is now? What is your perspective on biokinetics now?
Like I said, it was very minimal, because I thought, okay, you just move a person and then they go on with their life. But like I said, educating people, seeing people get better, creating that space for your patients, to come in and know that you will try your ultimate best to make them feel better. And so it's been very, I'd say my knowledge as well. I don't want to lie and say I knew what I knew back then. I'd be lying. I literally knew so little. But now I also see the potential and what it could do for people. And so I'd say my knowledge expanded in that sense, that I now see what it actually does. It does so much more than just to move the body. It works literally every aspect of your being, and it's fulfilling to know I'm also, a part of that, because our profession is still very much not out there, so being a part of it now and being a part of the process, because I do believe that in the future we'll get where we need to be. So it's very fulfilling to know that I'm also part of something that will bring change, and not just change, but impactful change. This is about changing people's lives, making people feel good, making people's life not just like, okay, I'm living, but worthwhile, So I'd say that's how my knowledge expanded. So much more than what meets the eye or what people think it is. It's game changing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Great. So now we're going to come to a closing, but we're going to close with 3. It's a question for all of you guys. And each and every one of you would get an answer or a chance to speak. And we call this the 3 truths. So there's 3 of us here, so each of you will give 1 truth. And the question goes, you guys are not you cannot take anything with you once you've left this earth. But you can only leave 1 truth behind. And let's make it more concrete in terms of biokinetics and what we do. You can only leave 1 truth behind once you've left this world. What truth would you like people to know about what we do as biokineticists? Letabo. Just 1 truth.
Okay, so like Beyonce said, I was here. So basically that they must feel, the truth is, I feel like we are the sustainers of life, basically, as bios, because it's not just, after the fact. It can be a before the fact thing as well. So the truth is, we are your guys' lifeline. And I would like everyone to know that, because yes. So yeah. Basically. As just leave an impact so big that they know that we are the truth, basically.
Amazing. Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds very Lutheran of you. That is quite big. I love it. Alrighty, Charlene, you cannot use Latabo's truth. What truth would you like to leave behind with regards to biokinetics?
Is it to other bios or is it to the general public?
That's a very good question. I haven't thought that far. Let's make it, let's do it to both, because I feel like you have truth to both of them. So general and to the other bios.
Well, I have one for other bios. Working with the nervous system has changed the way I think about being a bio. It's so worth it. Just, go look into first working with the nervous system and then the muscular system. And I say this because it's made a significant impact in the way I see the profession as a bio.
Amazing. Okay, do you have a truth for the general? And then lastly, Matabo, can I use any of those truths? What truth would you like to leave behind to other buyers or just the general public?
Okay, I'd say, like Letabo said, we are the truth. You see the truth that you say you must leave behind. We are the truth. So, because it also blows my mind, like every time I think about it, it's such an amazing profession. And if only people could get educated on it and see what it actually does and the impact it has, So it's not just about moving. Like you said, you could move. Most of us move every day, but we don't feel, a simple thing such as taking a walk. You don't really feel your limbs moving. It's not just about moving. It's about also feeling, being in that action, Because I think we had this conversation the other day when you're like, people walk, but they don't really feel their heels. They don't really feel, it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm moving, So it also made me realize that what we do is not just to have people functioning, but to be functioning, how can I put this? Like to be in it, and not just
to be conscious
to be conscious of it. So if there's one truth, this is not specific to anyone. I'm just saying that biokinetics is the truth. So yeah.
Amazing. Look, guys, this is absolutely fantastic. I think you guys really shared some beautiful words of wisdom. You guys are also very vulnerable, which I honestly appreciate, and I think that's what needs to be shared more of, is our vulnerability. Speaking about vulnerability, I'll sort of end off with a bit of a story about how my journey came to be. And so I told you guys when I started, my whole thing was that as if the more people I heal, and it was very interesting, I used to think that I'm healing the people, and we're not the healers, we're just the facilitator of the healing that takes place. But anyway, I thought the more people I can help, the better I'll feel about myself. And so there was a deep insecurity from my side, because I had to fulfill this void in me. And the only way I thought I could do that was through helping other people. And then quickly I realized that, I need to focus on me and focus on why is there such a void in me, and work toward that, not avoiding that, and coming up with solutions and and bridging that gap. And that for me liberated me completely, in that I was then able to be a lot more present, not have an imposter to be something that I'm not. And even up until now, there are times where I will get caught in it, and then you have to quickly just remind yourself that it's not always about what you know or how much you know, but it's more about who you are in that present moment, because people remember you for who you are, not for what you know. It's about how you make them feel. And so that is the biggest currency, is the way you make other people feel. And it's not even a word, it's a wordless feeling. It's not the way that you say things, or it's not what you say, but the way that you say it. It's the energy that comes from the words that you say.